Hello everyone, my name's Tim. I am the assistant to your teacher, Miss Fleming, and she wants me to draw a monster for you. So we're going to turn this stapler into a monster. Now the stipulation, the requirement that you have to have is it has to have legs. Other than that, we can kind of turn this stapler into whatever we want. First, I'm going to show you a few things of kind of what we're talking about. So I know some of you have already done this still life of like pears and apples and stuff. So I drew the same still life, but I just added a little bit of flair to it. Now this wouldn't work for the assignment because there's no legs. These pears can't walk around. But I'm just giving you an idea of what we're doing. So here's some more work. Some more creatures. Go up there. So you can kind of get a sense of my skill level. So what I'm going to do, kind of rotate this around and look for an angle that I like. We're going to start out with just a few sketches. So you can look at it like, boom, so this would be the back end of it. And you can, boom. So that's a very crude stapler, but the reason I'm sketching it like this is so I can play with it. Maybe I want to keep the stapler part intact. So I want to kind of keep this part up here, and we need legs. So we can just give it some legs. And look at your pet. I'm sure you got a dog or a cat, or somebody by your house has a dog or a cat, or you can look one up on Google. That's typically what I do. I look at animals to take from them. So like right here, I'm adding a little tail. So maybe this is the mouth. So we need eyes somewhere. It could be right here. So again, this is a very crude sketch. I'm just trying to get ideas down. So let's look at the object that we're going to transform. I'll rotate it around. See an angle. So like, okay. This is to help me experiment and try to figure out the design of this creature. Okay, so here's just a weird angle from the stapler. And it's kind of turned. Maybe this is the back end of like a spider or something. So, spider has legs. We need legs. Or maybe it's a weird giraffe with spider legs. So basically, I'm trying to show you that you can just add and subtract from this object to make something that you want to make. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe, okay, so I'm gonna draw this circle. It's kind of gonna be the body. And there's one stapler. Let's do another one on the other side. And maybe these staplers are the wings of an insect or something. Or, if you want, you can make it a dragon. Extend the neck a little bit. Dragons tend to have a little bit of a longer neck. No, I think wings could count. Would wings count for mobility?
Sure.
Okay, so wings could count. So you could also look at this like this. You don't necessarily have to keep the stapler part as long as you have a part of the object that we can somewhat recognize. So let me see, we'll look at this part right here. Kind of looks like a shoe, doesn't it? So, just kind of add lines and see if it inspires you any. I kind of like to add random lines to see if it's going to take me anywhere. Okay, so don't know what that is, so we'll just move on from there. This is the whole sketching part. You're looking for an idea. You know, artists don't just, bam, make a masterwork. It takes a lot of effort. So I'm looking at the front right here. Maybe it's like a snake. So see how these lines go? Well, here, let me boom. See how these lines go in? You can make them go in over here. It's part of perspective. And then maybe give it something here. It kind of looks like a wrestler. All right, so the one that I like is this one. So it's kind of like a spider giraffe with a stapler on its back. So we'll flip our page. Now we'll make it somewhat bigger. Boom. You can use this here. I'm just putting my pencil on the side to kind of get some sketchy lines in there. Okay, now I want to use some of the detail from the stapler. You know, use what you have to make the detail. So, there's the hole there. Okay, this little cover piece. It's probably a little bit further back right there. And this little part right here. And we'll put that there. Okay, now that's roughly sketched in. So now we need to do the legs. Now I want to do that spider giraffe thing right here. So I need to find an image of a spider. Do you have any spiders?
I don't know.
Let's see.
But they have 8 legs, I will tell you that.
Okay, so printed out a picture of a giraffe. And we got a little spider. So there's 8 legs on a spider. So we can do 8 legs. And I'll start with little circles. These will be the attaching points. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now you can do another circle. Like we'll bring this line out here. Another circle. So think of this like your forearm or your thigh. Now we can bring the line down and boom, bring it to a point. So do the same. Bring the line down to a point. Now there's overlapping right here. I'm only going to draw part of the shape. And boom. Okay, now let's get the belly in here, the belly of a spider. And now we have a major thing to think of. How are we going to transition from this big circle body into this long head? Where's the neck going to start? So this line is going straight up, and I'm just going to assume that the neck starts there. And here's the part of our stapler. We're going to bring this line around and start right there. Now I did not get a side view of a head. This is called a 3/4 when you can see both eyes. Drawing from a side view is where you should start when you design a creature. It'll prevent so many headaches. So I should have got a side view, but I didn't. I was kind of in a little rush, but it's okay because a giraffe's head is basically a triangle. And you got these two little knobs on the top. I don't actually know what these are, but they're kind of like horns, but they're under the skin. So they're not like a rhino's horn or something. They're a little bit different. And boom, we'll just bring that in. Now you could call this a chimera, because a chimera, it's a combination of many things. Like the normal chimera that most of you may know is the lion with the snake tail and the goat's head somewhere in its back. The reason it's a chimera is because it looks like a combination of everything, and it doesn't look like its own creature. So if you look at Godzilla or Pikachu, those are not chimeras because they look like their own thing. This is clearly a chimera because we can see the stapler here. We can see this insect type of body, and then a giraffe. So it's a chimera. Now, you can't see it well because this is a 3/4, but they have this big muscle right here. It's called the masseter. We have it too, but on horses, on many big mammals, their masseter is really large. So we're going to bring that in right here. And we'll just kind of loop that down into there. Now the eyes, if you can see right here, see how this value is it's like a 1. And right behind it, I'd say that's like and it's showing up darker on the video, but it's like a 4. So, it's pretty dark. That's showing you that this eye is sticking out. So their eyes stick out further on the sides. When we're drawing it on this side view, you're not really going to have that. So we'll do that right there. Just draw a circle. And this is see how this is a point? You could fit like a triangle right there. Okay. That does not look right. So we're going to probably curve it up a little bit. In animals, there's no triangles. There's no sharp points except for teeth and claws.
Hello?
Okay. Now, so we got this transition right here. I'm gonna pause.
Mary and Franklin.
All right, so if you can see this line right here, we're going to use that to show a little bit of muscle. Now that is your trapezius. You may have learned this in an anatomy class, but this is the big diamond-shaped muscle that connects from your back, well, from the back of your neck to about midway on your back. Now, you can easily throw this line in, and all mammals are going to have that line. So I'll just throw that in just to give it a little bit more definition. But what we need to work on now is the stapler. So we're at a big impasse right now. We need to figure out how we're going to transition from this insect body into a stapler, which is, most of them are metal, some are plastic. So you could do a little squiggly line here to kind of show that it's coming out. You could do some diagonal lines to show that it's coming out, like it's like coming out from the sleeve of your shirt or something. I think I'm gonna go with the squiggles. I like the squiggles better. So we're just gonna squiggle right there. And now we're gonna use our stapler to help define this better. So right here, boom. Now we will be putting value in, but we're not going to go extreme with it because it's hard to understand something that you've created with light on it. Choosing a light source is very, very hard inside of your brain. It's something that I still struggle with. But there's always parts that are always going to be in shadow. So if we think of the light just coming directly above, like we're outside on a nice warm day, which we're unfortunately going to run out of, the shadows will be under. So like under here, there'll be shadow because the light's going to come from above. Think of like under your nose. 9 times out of 10, it's always in shadow because the light is typically coming from above. We're going to round this down. It's not as sharp as the top. Now this needs to be extended a little bit more, and see how it comes straight out. We need to get that, so we're going to go straight, and then it comes at an angle right here. Boom. Now with all these lines that we got going on here, just erase, get them out of your way because we're not using those lines anymore. All right, so see how this comes above, how it comes above on the stapler? There's going to be a little bit of value down there, like maybe a 3 or a 4. But with what you can do is you can just press a little bit harder on your pencil, and it'll make that line darker, and it'll make it look like this is coming towards you a little bit more. We're also going to do the same under here. And this still didn't come out right. Boom. Okay. Maybe we should have a staple coming out so we can see. Makes a little bit more sense. Almost looks like teeth coming out. All right. So I'm bringing up my spider. We'll look at the legs again. Now with this little, I don't know, little pin or whatever it is, they did one piece and then another piece. Now theirs is sharper. We can choose to make it sharper or rounder. Kind of depends on what you want. You want to keep the design looking fairly in sync. You don't want things looking too out of place. Granted, I know we got a spider, a giraffe, and a stapler all in one design, which is just out of place by itself. But we can make the whole design look together by making some of the features share the same shapes. So like there's sharp shapes here, we have sharp shapes here. Maybe we'll make the horns on the giraffe sharper. Boom. Okay. So with this one down here, I'm just going to darken this one a little bit more. I'd say this is probably like a 4, maybe a 3. I'm just giving it some value to push it behind this leg. Now, we got this part of the stapler here, and we got it right there, but it doesn't look right. So we're just going to get rid of it. Boom. And now let's work on these legs a little bit more. So we do the same thing we did over here by darkening the bottom parts. It'll give us a little bit more volume. We're not going to make this fully 3D because that'll be a little bit too difficult, but we can give it some sense that it has a little bit of 3D character to it. Just doing the same on all the legs. Now we're going to erase the middle line that we used to help us draw these legs. Just get those out of there. And we'll get the little circles that I put down out of there as well. And this doesn't connect, so we're just going to redraw it. So now, some of you may know, but spiders are kind of furry. They've got hair, believe it or not, and we're going to try to do some of that hair. So I'm just going to suggest that there is hair there by adding in these little, it's these lines right here, just cutting away. And just add them in different variations. And we also need to break up the outside line. The outside line is typically called a silhouette or a contour. In art, there's many names for the same thing. But we're going to break that line up a little bit, because if you look at your dog or cat, it's not a perfect straight line. There's these little zigzags on there because they got fur. So we're going, boom. Now here going into the giraffe neck, we got this hair going down here, and then we got this hair wrapping. So it's going to kind of ball up a little bit right here. Like if you've ever seen a dog that hasn't had a bath, they've got some very clumped hair. This happens a lot with giraffes and big mammals that are out in the wild because they're not getting a bath very regularly. Now, I'm just going to erase a little bit of these lines. It'll make them, I'm not fully erasing, I'm kind of lightening. I'm using the eraser, which this is just kind of like a mechanical pencil, but with an eraser in it. I'm going to use that. You can use your eraser that came with your set as well to just lighten some areas.
I wish they had a set.
Oh, they never got their set?
No, they still haven't found.
Oh, well, if you got the back of a pencil, you can use that as well. In my opinion, an eraser is an eraser until you get this clay thing. And this I just like to play with. It's called a kneaded eraser. All right, so we're gonna work a little bit more on this stapler. I'm just gonna add a little bit of value here to help make this leg come forward. So see how I added a little bit of darkness there. It'll bring that leg forward. Boom, just a little bit. And I'm not gonna go all the way up. Just boom. Now, just like this the hole here, we're gonna make it dark. Boom, boom. And I'm gonna add a little bit more value under there, and then darkening this part right here of the stapler. We can add a little bit of scratches to the stapler. Or like this one's got like some wet spots or something. Right? Just use what you see on your object to add some texture to the object you're creating. So now we're going to fix this head. We're going to get rid of that triangle shape that I initially put down. And right here you can see the giraffe. I want to bring the eye down a little bit. I want to bring it down there. And let's define this line a little bit better. Now we're not going to go too far into the giraffe. I don't expect, and Miss Fleming doesn't expect, you to be a great drawer of animals. But you can definitely get the highlights of what an animal has. So with that, we're going to transition from this hair, this long hair here, into the spots. Now these spots, they're hair. It's just like the spots on a cat. They're just not as fluffy. And giraffes, they kind of have their own design. Each one has their own individual design, kind of like a driver's license or something. A lot of giraffe like preservation people that want to save giraffes, they can identify them by their spots because their spots are not the same. I thought that was pretty cool when I learned that. So with that, you can, as long as you're staying somewhat true to this, it'll come out looking like what you want it to look like. Basically, any designed creature comes from our world. The animals here on this planet, they're so diverse, and some of them are just so funky looking, and they're weirder than what you can come up with in your imagination. So any animal that you've seen in a movie, in a video game, in a comic book, whatever, in any type of media, odds are, I say probably 99% of the time, it was pulled from something from real world. So going back to Pikachu, I'm sure most of you know who that is. Even if you don't play Pokemon, and even if you don't know what it is, you know what Pikachu is. Pikachu is just a mouse, but yellow. That's a very direct way of bringing an animal into a more cartoony design. But there's, like Godzilla, for instance, that it's a little bit harder to tell what animal it came from. But, I mean, odds are it came from some form of lizard that they decided to make it walk like a person. Because back when Godzilla started in like the 50s or something, maybe even before the 50s, but people used to have to get in those suits to, pretend to be Godzilla or whatever the other monster is that he's fighting. So they had to design their creatures with the idea that somebody is going to be inside of this suit. Now, things have changed a lot more because of digital art. That makes it you can get a lot freer with your designs. So you can make something that a human doesn't have to fit in, or like animation, you don't have to worry about that at all. So there's a lot of little subtleties to creating a monster. So I want to bring these spots in just a little bit more to kind of bridge this gap. Now right here, this is kind of like a cluster. So I'm just going to make it darker. Okay. I think we should work more on the face now. Now, if you want to make an animal seem like it has life, you darken the eye and leave a little white spot, leave a little highlight. That'll give it some life. Now, up here, it's a little too dark. The top lines should be lighter than the bottom because our light is coming directly from above. So we're going to go in here and lighten some of this up. Now I am using a really dark pencil. It's a 4B. So the harder you press, the darker it's going to get. And with that, sometimes it's hard to erase those lines. Okay, so now we're going to work on this belly. We're just going to kind of shade it. We don't want to make it too dark down here. It doesn't need to be too dark. Just needs to be dark enough to keep pushing these legs towards us. And to wrap it up, I could keep working on this for hours and then we could switch to color eventually, but to keep this just like the rest of our assignments, we're going to finish around here. I am just going to put a shadow. So I'm going to try to keep this a straight line with just a little bit of thickness. Now see what it is compared to the eraser right here. Just a little bit of thickness to show that this creature is actually standing on ground. Now you can make it darker the closer it gets to the legs. That is called an occlusion shadow. That is when an object is on a surface, there's always a very dark part, and then there's a shadow. So we're gonna make it a little bit darker here. And we're gonna make this a little bit thicker than the rest because the circle, if you can imagine it in 3D and you turn it, it's probably kind of fat. So I want to show that in the shadow. You want to keep your lines going horizontal as much as possible to show that this is land. And see this white that I got right here? That's showing that this part of the stapler is not touching the ground. So I got a little too close there. So we're gonna bring that out right there. Try to at least. I went very dark, so it's a little hard to erase. Yeah, I guess we're just going to have to live with it. It's not going to erase. You have to adapt sometimes to what your materials do. So I guess the last part we could do is hint that there's legs on the other side. And with these, I'm just going to make them dark, like a 6, just to show that there's something on the other side. Maybe we could angle this one a little bit. Nah, we'll just do that. All right, and this is how you can turn an object into a creature. Always use reference for these creatures, because you may think you know what a zebra looks like. You may think you know what a lion looks like until you start drawing it. Then you realize, oh, it's way more harder than I thought it was going to be. All right, so for your assignment, you need to take an object, give it legs, wings, something that where it can move. You need to make it look bizarre or weird like this, or creepy, okay? In the spirit of Halloween. And the last thing is you need to incorporate your 7 values in here. So you can do that easily by look at my object. You see how this is lighter than this? That's a difference in value. So we could just throw that in here just lightly. Like so, this is like a 1. And this one, I'll make it like a 2. And maybe it's a little bit darker. Boom. And so we need to make this a little bit darker then, down here. Boom. A little bit darker right here. Now, if you don't want to do your final drawing with your first large sketch, you do the large sketch and you can hold your drawing up to a window and you put another piece of paper on top of it to carefully trace the lines. That's if you want a clean outline. So like mine is not very clean, but I am okay with that because I would use this to do a painting. So I would use this as my sketch. And you could think of it like your starting point for your painting. And we'll probably bring these ears down just a little bit more. Don't really give the ears too much attention in this. Okay. All right. I could keep playing with this forever. You guys have a good day. Stay safe. Bye.